Imagine this. A deadly new virus is tearing through communities. There's chaos, there's fear everywhere. So right in the middle of all that, how do you even start doing the research you need to stop it? Today, we're diving into that exact problem, the huge challenge of conducting ethical research during an infectious disease outbreak.
So yeah, this is really the big question here. I mean, people are dying, health systems are collapsing, and the pressure to find a cure or a vaccine is just astronomical. But how do we balance that urgent need for answers with our fundamental duty to protect the very people who are helping us with the research? It really is a true ethical tightrope.
Okay, so first things first, we have to understand something absolutely critical. When you're facing an outbreak, research isn't just some nice to have. It is a profound moral obligation. We actually have a duty to learn because, well, ignorance in a pandemic is deadly.
And this quote from the World Health Organization, wow, it's incredibly powerful. Just think about that for a second. It isn't just a suggestion, right? It's a mandate. It frames research not as some separate, sterile lab activity, but as an essential part of the public health response itself. We are morally bound to figure things out.
So what does this moral obligation really look like in practice? Well, it means using research to guide the real-time decisions that save lives, like right now on the ground. It's about rigorously figuring out if new treatments and vaccines are actually safe and effective. And, what we learn in the fire of one crisis helps us fight the next one better, which reduces suffering both now and in the future.
So this moral obligation, it brings us right to the heart of the problem. If we have to do this research, how do we get it right when time is short, resources are scarce, and the situation is changing by the hour? This is the tightrope, the need for speed versus the totally non-negotiable demand for safety and ethical rigor.
So you've got these two things that seem to be pulling in opposite directions. On the one hand, the public health response is all about immediate action to save the lives right in front of you. On the other, really good research requires careful, methodical evaluation to generate solid knowledge for everyone. They can seem like they're at odds, but the whole point of ethical guidance here is that they have to be integrated. You can't just pick one.
And here's something we have to be super clear about. An emergency is never an excuse to cut ethical corners. The core principles that guide all human research, the basics, doing good, respecting a person's autonomy and dignity, and being fair, none of that gets thrown out the window. In fact, it all becomes even more important when people are at their most vulnerable.
Which, of course, brings us to one of the trickiest parts of all of this, informed consent. How do you get a truly voluntary and informed yes from someone who is terrified, maybe watching their loved ones die, and just desperate for any glimmer of hope?
And this is where things can get dangerously blurry. Think about it from the patient's perspective. Is this experimental drug a guaranteed cure for them, or is it a test to see if it works for anyone? That distinction is everything, but in a crisis, it is so easy to lose sight of.
Well, this kind of confusion actually has a name, the therapeutic misconception. It's that understandable but mistaken belief that, hey, I'm in a study run by doctors, so its main purpose must be to treat me. The big takeaway here is that researchers have a job to do. They have to actively fight this misconception and make it crystal clear that the main goal is to generate knowledge that might help a lot of other people down the road.
So what does that actually look like? Well, it's not about just handing someone a form and telling them to sign. It means actively working with local communities to build a consent process that makes sense in their context. It means using local staff who speak the language, who understand the culture, and who can build genuine trust. And it means planning ahead for those awful situations where a patient is just too sick to consent for themselves.
And this whole idea of communication and trust, it goes way beyond just one-on-one conversations. Ethical research isn't just a transaction with one person. It's a relationship with an entire community. I mean, without the trust and partnership of the people most affected by the outbreak, no research effort is going to succeed. And building that trust, well, it's a process. It has to start before anyone even signs up for a study, and it keeps going long after the study is done. It means bringing local scientists onto the team, being radically transparent about what you're doing and why, and making absolutely sure your research project isn't siphoning away doctors and nurses from the clinics where they're so desperately needed.
And on top of all of this, all the social and ethical stuff, there's a scientific duty too. The science itself just has to be solid. Putting people at any risk, no matter how small, is completely unethical if the study is poorly designed and won't produce reliable answers. It's simple. Bad science is bad ethics.
Okay, so let's say you've done it. You've navigated the tightrope. You've conducted a rigorous ethical study, and you have the community's trust. What happens next? What do you owe the people and the community who made it all possible?
Well, the work doesn't stop just because you've collected the data. Nope. In fact, a whole new moral duty kicks in. You can't just lock knowledge gained in a crisis away in a lab and wait months to publish it in some fancy journal. Researchers have a duty to share quality-controlled results quickly because that information could change the course of the outbreak and save lives right now.
So who needs this info? Well, it's got to go to everyone on the front lines. The public health officials making policy, the international teams coordinating the response, and, this is so important, it has to go back to the participants and the communities who took part in the study. It's their data too.
And that brings us to maybe one of the most important ideas of all. Equitable access is basically a promise that if a community takes on the risks of testing a new vaccine or treatment, they will not be left behind if it proves to be a lifesaver.
And this is absolutely crucial. This can't be an afterthought. This is a promise that has to be baked right into the research plan from day one. Before the study even starts, the researchers, the sponsors, and the local governments must have a concrete plan for how to get the successful intervention to the very people who helped develop it. And that leaves us with this final question. Because let's be real, we know another outbreak is coming. The ethical frameworks we've talked about today aren't just theoretical. They are the practical, essential tools we need to get ready. Because ensuring our search for answers is fast, effective, and respectful, that is the only way we can hope to win.